Hey there, Danny here. Welcome to my ramblings. Sorry, AC and it's hot here. So I want to discuss with you about rewriting history. And I'm talking, at least that's what I now call it. And let me explain what I mean by all of this. Because I'm really kind of going out there. I hope that I make sense to some of you on what I'm about to say. So when you're in a relationship, any relationship, it doesn't matter if it's an intimate relationship, significant other, if it's family, if it's friends, it doesn't matter. When you're in a relationship, when you are interacting with other human beings, one-on-one or whatever, you're building a relationship, whether that's a friendship or significant other, whatever. It's irrelevant. You're building a relationship with them. Family, you build it from the time you're born, so that relationship's like established from back then. So when you're dealing in a relationship with anybody, and I'll use me as a few examples here so you can try to comprehend what I'm going to say here. When you're talking, you're in a relationship, you're doing really well in the relationship, everything's good, then there's fighting, and then there's bickering, and it progresses, and it progresses, and it progresses, and it comes to this major blow. And you and the other person are at each other's faces, getting into it, arguing, yelling, hollering. Nobody's listening to anybody. You all are just running off of sheer instant feelings, and we all know that feelings are temporary. Things are going to be said, things are going to be done that both parties will end up regretting. That relationship separates. Whether that's just time away for people to cool off, whether they actually walked away and want nothing to do with that relationship ever again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. You separate. At that separation point, you still have your own anger and your own irritation from that fight, and they do too. As each person is individually going over what happened and how it led up to this, each person, there are pieces in each person that were triggered, and I've talked about triggering before. And so when you fight, one person's triggered, that triggers the next person, and then that re-triggers this person, and the triggers just keep going. So your fight may not necessarily be a fight. It may be coping mechanisms that you have learned from your past, your preconditioning. So when you have those thoughts and you're trying to figure this out, we as human beings, and it's because we're kind of taught this is how to deal with it. I mean, it's keep things behind closed doors, it's family secret, all that stuff. So you're taught that there's certain things that you don't look at, that you don't admit to, that you don't let the world know that this is part of you. And when you go into adulthood, there are pieces of yourself that you have hidden so deep within that you don't even know anymore. And I'm going to tell you this from experience. This is my experience. I've been as real and as raw as I can with you guys. I am going to tell you, I did make a couple of videos where I was crying and stuff. I've already put one or two of them up here. So I promised you that I would be as real and raw as I can with you. So when the last relationship ended, I had been arrested. I was out. I was waiting for the court date so I could take the plea and move along to Arizona and get the hell away from, as far away from that person as I could. Because I knew deep down that I would have 100% ended up talking to him again. I had to put distance between us, and I knew that. So while I was fuming over all of this and having to deal with my attorney and everything else, there were bits and pieces of that night that I didn't want to own up to in myself. It happened. There's no way that I could deny my part in any of it. But I kind of pushed those to the side. Then when I got back here, that was in January, just end of December of 2019. And I finally got back here in March of 2020. And at that point, I was staying with a friend. And I started DoorDash, then the lockdowns happened. And then I decided I had already decided on my way back out here that I wasn't dating for a year. That I needed time away, because when I looked back personally over all of my past relationships, how could they be that? How could they be like that? Not all those people could be horrible. What was wrong with me? So I needed to fix me before I could have anybody else in my life. Because the truth was, if I didn't fix me, I was just going to pour those wounds back out onto the next person. And I didn't want to do that. The words I just told you are not how I thought of it in the beginning. Nowhere near how I thought of it in the beginning. In the beginning, it was more about, and I've told you in other videos about the picker being broken and how I looked at it. There's a reason that I brought all of that up in the videos before, is so you can see the progression. So now we're to the point where when you start to love yourself and start to find your true authentic self, you look back over those moments. You look back over all of it in your life. And for the first time, and it's very hard to do, but for the first time in your life, you can look at it and see why that pattern kept repeating. And the more you see how that pattern kept repeating and why it kept repeating, that's when you really start digging in to the dark recesses of yourself. I'm not fully through all of that. I don't think that I ever will be through with any of this growth. But I'm not all the way through the finding those dark, deep recesses of me that I have hidden away ever since my childhood. But the more that I do this, the more that I dig deep within and look at the pieces of myself that I've hidden from myself, my world opens up wider. I meet new people. Your world opens up once you start to take care of those deep, dark recesses in your soul, in your heart, in your mind that you've hidden away because they were just too painful and you didn't know how to look at them. You start to look at them. And it's not that bad once you start to look at them. And here's why. The first few are because you're blown away. But as you start to keep doing it, all of a sudden, it's, I get it. Because of what happened to me before, I carried that with me. And I thought, it doesn't cause me pain anymore, so I think I'm okay. I'm over it. I wasn't. I just stuffed it deep down. And I didn't want to realize that. And as I started to realize these things, that would take me back to the memory that got me into that position, and it kept going back. And it still does at times over certain things, but not like it used to. I was sleeping very well for a while, and now I'm back to not sleeping so great, which that doesn't stress me out anymore like it used to. And the reason it doesn't stress me out is because if I'm not sleeping through the night and I'm getting up several times and I'm antsy and I just can't rest, even if I'm tired, I don't get stressed out by it anymore for one reason. Well, there's kind of two, but one main reason is because I know that it's essentially my body trying to avoid dreaming, because things come out in our dreams, and I don't always remember the dream. I remember bits and pieces of it. So 3 or 4 nights ago, I woke up in the middle of the night hungry. That happens constantly with me, so that's not out of the ordinary for me. I constantly get up in the middle of the night and munch on things. Actually, the most recent ex did not like that I would grab a bag of chips and go sit in the bedroom and watch TV and eat chips in bed. Anyways, I don't care. I got a vacuum cleaner. I'm going to clean the sheets. What do I care? And I got dogs. Come on now. Anyways, the dream the other night was I woke up, and just before I fully woke up, I was just still partially asleep. I knew that I was starting to wake up, and all of a sudden I had this picture of these ropes. They were edible, but they were blue and rainbow color ropes, and there were 2 or 3 of them. And all I know is when I woke up, I wanted these ropes, and I walked out to the kitchen I knew exactly what the hell it was. I had no clue what it was, because I don't have any rainbow or blue ropes here. I don't know. So instead, I got something else to eat, and then I went back to bed. I don't know what those mean. I still don't yet, but I will. I'll figure it out. So I wrote it down, along with the date. And then I had another one last night, and last night was something about, I don't know why, but for some reason, I was using baby powder on everything. Not on my person, but on my carpeting, on my dogs, on my... And why baby powder matters, I don't know, but I'll figure that out too. So I write it down, along with the date. And after a period of time, I can put these pieces together and see exactly what it's trying to tell me. And to me, it's individual. And you kind of use a little bit of common sense with what the meaning of those things are, because I think a lot of that stuff is very individual. Because some people use baby powder on babies every time they diaper them. Some of us never used it. So I think the symbolism of it, you have to take into context based off of the person who had that dream. So I know once I get whatever this message is that my unconscious is trying to tell my conscious and say, hey, we still got to work on this. I'll figure it out. I'll work on it. I'll give you a heads up. I'll even tell you when I figure it out exactly what it is and how I came to those conclusions. But the part that I want to talk about is when you had that argument and you separated. You and that person went your separate ways. You look back at the things, and they are too, probably, but we're just going to focus on you for a minute. So you're looking back at the things, and the pieces of you that you can't fathom to look at, to acknowledge, those dark, deep recesses inside of you, are going to come up. And at that point, you have one of two choices. You can swallow it down and put it back in the deep, dark recesses of yourself, or you can hold on to it and look at it. And you can look at it and go, holy shit, if I said that, well, that makes sense why that person said that back to me if I said something like that. That is when you are working on loving yourself and becoming your true, authentic self. Otherwise, you're going to throw it back down in the deep, dark recesses of yourself. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to keep repeating the same type of patterns. And they're going to be different, but the same type of patterns until you learn that lesson. Once you learn that lesson, you get to move to better and greater things. But you have to learn this lesson first. And once you start to realize, okay, there's a lesson in here. Let me start looking for the lesson that's in here. I'm able to move past it a lot quicker. I have a lot less stress. I am way more at peace. People don't trigger me nearly as much as they used to. I mean, it's pure freedom and peace. So we're going to talk about the rewriting of history that you do when you're angry and triggered and not really necessarily fighting with the person in front of you as much as those things you've kept in the deep, dark recesses of yourself. So, this is what I wrote. I had to share that with you in order for you to understand this. I said, it's funny how we rewrite our own history. So when someone dies, everyone comes out and shares memories of them. Even if the deceased was not such a great person, people figure out how to put their own rewritten history to the side. What if we did that in everyday life? I think that would be truly amazing. And that's exactly where I'm working towards being. Exactly. And every step I take closer to this, I'm filled with so much peace and confidence and pride in myself that I just feel like I'm soaring. I really do. So, the reason I believe this happens is because the pain and anger we had with the deceased was part of our coping mechanisms. Yet at death, we can finally get past it. What if we learned how to do this with the living? Those are the two questions I pose to you. I have a few other things that have been written down over the past few weeks that I will be sharing with you. I just wanted to throw this out at you and have you ponder it a little bit. Feel free to reach out. My phone number, my email's in the description. You can reach out through the channel here, put a comment or whatever. And let's see where we're headed with this, because this is now the best part of the journey. I've taken you through a lot of the hard part of the journey. We're now heading on to the part where life opens up and the world is brand new. And this part of the journey is amazing. And I've only just gotten to this part. Maybe a year ago. So this is still new for me and it's still very exciting. So stay tuned. Let's see some of the stuff. I got some other fun videos coming out too, but stay tuned. There's more questions. You've got questions. You're struggling with those deep, dark recesses in yourself. Feel free to give me a call. I'm actually pretty good at helping other people be able to see the things for themselves. And I literally just do that by asking a few questions. And when I see that because when they're talking their focus. So when I hear them talk to me and certain things they say to me, I will go, okay, they're not thinking of the other person. So at that point I will say, well, did you ever think maybe the other person might feel this way? And that's why they kind of respond that way. And then when I say that to people, they're always like, oh my God, I never thought of that. And it ends up helping them. We end up having this nice, lovely conversation. and it changes things for them. It helps them. So feel free to reach out, because I'm really good at that stuff, and I actually enjoy doing it. There's one lady that called it therapy, and I really didn't like the name of that, because that's not what it was. It was just a fellow human being seeing something from all angles and trying to help the other person see it from a different angle. And once you can remove your triggers from you and everything else, and you can zoom yourself out and see the bigger picture, you don't get triggered as much anymore, because you start to learn that the people around you that are lashing out at you aren't lashing out at you. They're lashing out at themselves. You are nothing more than a reflection of themselves that they don't want to see. That's exactly what that is. So, feel free to hit me up if you have questions, you want to talk, whatever. I'm all good with that. I'll be back in a day or two. Hopefully, I'll get through these crazy dreams so I can get to what that is, because I really like my sleeping normally. Anyways, have a good night, guys. Love ya.